All right, welcome to another episode of LogiCast. My name is BlankaKong. I'm joined by Mr. Esoteric, Gunner Eos, and Huddle Wolf. Welcome back. Today's topic,
Good
yeah,
to be
man, it's
back.
been a while. It's been 80 episodes
Mm.
or something like that. Um, so today's topic is going to be really about metagaming and cooperative games, but we're going to use this article from Gamer Rant. Helldivers 2 players are getting kicked for not using meta loadouts in their multiplayer games. So, the article basically outlines how this is kind of screwed up and how um, a game like Helldivers should be more about the thrill of the mission and having fun with your friends, and you should be allowed to use whatever loadout is your favorite for whatever reason, whether it's good or whether it's just simply fun. Um, and I can sympathize with that perspective. I think you should be allowed to play however you want to play. That's fine. However, other people should be allowed to be discriminatory as to what kind of players they want to play with in a cooperative experience because different people have different objectives. Some people have the objective of, well, I want to play this game because it's fun. And then other people, their objective is, well, I want to successfully complete this mission and, get the drops or whatever. Or just simply have like solid runs. I don't want to waste the night, right? And I get that too, and I kind of favor that position. So I'm gonna turn it over to you guys and kind of let you guys talk about how you feel. How do you feel about metagame loadouts and games like Helldivers, cooperative online multiplayer game?
Mm.
Esoteric, I guess you can start if you want.
I guess sure. Pretty much my thought process aligns with Yukong and pretty much the article to some degree. I feel as though that the game, depending upon what the objective is determined by the people that you play with. If some people do want to play for enjoyment purposes, don't really care about the objectives. Their goal is to have fun. However, there are players who would want to clear the objectives effectively and make their lives easier because, when it comes to co op, what you're supposed to be doing is for the betterment of the team. It's about you playing a particular role and effectively being good in that role. It happens all the time in like MMOs, me playing Final Fantasy 14. If I wasn't an effective damage dealer, I could not play the game. I mean, they even had, uh, I guess you could say they kind of masked meta because if you didn't have a certain level cap to your armor pieces and your weapons, you could not even join certain missions within that game. So, with that being said, certain things are needed to clear certain objectives, and that's dependent upon the group that you're rolling with. I could even go as far as like sports. There's a meta for sports. You want the person in basketball to be like the tallest, be able to dunk, be able to effectively dribble a ball. Yes, there are some differences within the sport. However, the most dominant players are typically the ones who are athletic, tall, and fast. Um, like, am I going to get upset because I couldn't join the NBA? No, because I understand the fact that I did not have what was required to be a good player in the NBA. So what can I do as an alternative? I can play with friends who understand my my stats or whatever you want to call them, and if they are willing to play with me, great. If not, that's also great because the objective could be either they just want to have fun or they want to win. And if you want to win, they're going to go with the most optimized way in order to effectively do that. So that's pretty much my point. Like if you don't if you want to be able to play a game the way that you want to play, you have to find like-minded individuals that want to play the same way as you.
Um, yeah, so yeah, pretty much I agree that at least in some aspects you should adhere to the meta or at least a functional build. I'm not really like an advocate of like pure meta because I unfortunately that makes it like everybody's using the same exact thing. but
Yeah.
I'm more of a proponent of optimal gameplay. So if the way these games work, I'm not sure about Helldivers specifically because I haven't played it, but in like well, I'll use Monster Hunter because I'm everybody here has extensive knowledge of that, and I have extensive knowledge of that. So at least in older Monster Hunter games, not newer ones, but at least like older ones, if you weren't playing optimally, you were going to lose. Like pretty hands down. Like you might be able to get away with maybe a suboptimal build, but if you were using normal shot up and you're using a hammer, you're probably going to be in for a rough time. You'll either time out or you'll cart before you time out.
Mm-hmm.
So as these games get more difficult, the player base, especially if you're playing with randoms, expects a certain degree of knowledge and skill, which unfortunately kind of weeds out the fun, kooky builds. Because if everything's about killing the thing faster so we can accomplish X objective, you have 5 people, for example, doing that, and then you have the 6th person just being fun and kooky with his like buff build or his poison build that doesn't really work. And when I used to raid in Final Fantasy 14, to me I would feel like I am wasting 7 other people's time. Like we all decided to gather together to do this raid and to succeed at it. And if I'm not playing optimally, I have just basically said without saying, "Hey guys, I just feel like doing what I want for 3 hours. We may progress, we may clear, we may not. Sorry, but we're having fun though, right? It's fun times, right?" Not necessarily. So I'm kind of the opinion, not necessarily meta, as in if you don't have this amount of attack, you're trash and uninstall the game. But I'm a fan of optimal play.
Yeah.
That doesn't leave any room for the kooky fun builds. And if you're playing at the highest difficulty of Helldivers or any other game, at least understand the situation you're putting other people in. I know it sounds weird coming from a video game because this is supposed to be just something for fun, but what would you do? Would you rather have fun succeeding, or would you rather waste an hour, let's say, of any particular Helldivers run, and you end up failing? It's an hour you can't get back, and it's an hour that's going to feel like a waste of time. So, I know it sounds really pretentious, but that's kind of where my mindset is at. Like, just play effectively if you're playing with randoms at a certain difficulty level. So.
Yeah, and to your point about 14 Gunner, you're also not only wasting people's time, you're also wasting their money. Like you have to pay a monthly subscription for that. So to be stuck on a level because someone is failing to do their part and you having to pay an extra month because
if I wasn't holding up my weight, I would fully expect to be kicked. Like I would understand that because I'm not holding my end. It's an unagreed upon contract when you join with randoms in any given context. It's like, hey, look, this is high level gameplay. I'm going to try and do my best for all of us to succeed. We may never meet again, and that's fine. But for this hour that I'm with you guys, I'm going to do my part to make sure that we clear this fight. And I kind of expect that from other people. Even though I know someone's going to come in the comments and be like, well, it's online. You can't expect people to play to your standards. Like there has to be a standard, a baseline standard. Like, it can't be all like fucking craziness. Anyway, Wolf, if you have anything to add, because I know we kind of went.
Mhm. So yeah, if you suck, get out.
Only nuance takes here at Logical Game.
I'm sorry. Here's okay. That's just me being the most harsh that I could be. No, really, I do believe, I do feel like if you have to understand, I guess, the levels of what you're playing, right? Like Helldiver obviously is it for people to get kicked because of their loadout or whatever they're using or their gameplay, then that means that it's a game with with a high intense multiplayer commitment.
Mm.
So, as someone who is, I guess, older with responsibilities, I don't want to spend my night, whatever given night that I have, to unwind and escape from the realities of the world, to then have to deal with someone who's making my hobby harder intentionally. I can
Yeah,
understand,
that's a good
right?
word. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I can understand if it's a person who comes in and they're like, well, I got to this rank or I got to this part of the game because I was carried and now I'm trying to build my own. Like, let's go back to Monster Hunter. I have done early high rank, master rank, G rank, whatever rank you want to call it, missions with people who had lower rank armor. And I've seen them try in the very least.
Yeah.
So I can tell like this person got there maybe because they had a group of friends who pulled them through, and maybe they're just trying to, get the monster pieces that will allow them to survive within the long run. But then I'll get some who just don't care. Like you can tell a player cares if their build or play style is not perfect, but it's going along the flow of their expected role. So if say it's a team of 4 people, let's use a perfect like you have your tank, your damage healer, your healer, backup DPS, which is typically a mage or something, right?
Right.
Hmm.
So if the healer is lacking in healing stats to properly give HP, but you can see that their build is going along, like they may be missing this part, or maybe they're missing this weapon, or maybe they're trying to get the skill coins to put into this stat. Like you can see that player. You can see the players like, okay, I'm not there yet, but I'm doing my best to heal. I'm doing my best to put my set together. That is a player that isn't necessarily wasting your time, but just needs assistance. That requires patience. But if the tank, however, is just pulling things, acting as if he's a DPS, not trying to, not using provoke, just doing whatever was it, onslaught, I think was a tank move back in Final Fantasy 11 or something like that. I could be wrong,
Oh.
but
Yeah,
it
maybe it's been a
was
bit.
something. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
been a
been a
while.
while.
But like some high DPS move, and they're wearing DPS armor and not putting anything into their defense or HP, then this is a tank that doesn't care
Mm.
about the role he's supposed to play. So he's wasting my time. So I look at it as, if the game is like a multiplayer game like Call of Duty where you can just jump in and play, the person's loadout really shouldn't matter. But if it's a game that's like for instance, for us, Monster Hunter reached that point because we were looking for the most optimal ways of killing the monster. Faster runs means more runs, right?
Yeah,
The faster the
exactly.
run, the more runs we make in a half hour or in an hour time span. Um, in Final Fantasy, it was like I've been kicked. I was a Dragoon. Dragoon was one of the best DPS classes at one point. I've been kicked out of groups because my Dragoon was 2 points less than the attack point that was required of that particular group. And I have to understand where their point of view is, right? If my attack is supposed to be 305 and I'm running around with a Dragoon at 300, for every point, it matters to them because this fight, one, they probably had to pay people to get in. They probably had to wait hours to find a space for their particular role. They probably have to kiss people's ass online so that they can join them. I understand how problematic it can be to deal with multiplayer games that are high demand in play style or high demand in skill level. So honestly, if Helldiver is the name of the game,
Yeah,
Helldiver,
Helldivers too, but yeah, it's right.
Helldivers 2. If Helldivers 2 is just your run in the mill shoot 'em up action game, then maybe people who is kicking other people should chill out and let people enjoy the game. But if it is a high cap ceiling multiplayer game where things do matter. Your role matters, your damage matters, your playstyle matters. Respect it. Don't go in on a high level group and then get mad because you get kicked because you're not pulling your weight. Don't do that. That's not fair to those people. So yeah, honestly, I'm with the meta.
Yeah.
Be good or go home.
Yeah, I mean, if you have friends, like if you have a full friend group and you all want to do crazy, kooky, subpar builds yourself, that's fine, right? Because you all know what you're getting into. It's like, all right, we're gonna do the poison build. I'm gonna do the support build, and I'm gonna do like this electric build. Stuff that isn't meta. That's fine because you're all assuming friends, and it's like you're all agreeing to. We're probably not gonna clear this, but I want to see if we can do it, or it's some like challenge that your friend group has, clearing the highest content of the game without a meta build or without an optimal build. But just to play devil's advocate a little bit, you'll have people say, "Well, bro, it's just fun, bro. We're just here. We're just having fun. This isn't like you're not in esports. This isn't a tournament." And to that, it's just like, sure, it's fun. But once you pass a certain threshold, there is a level of seriousness, as crazy as it sounds from a video game, that you have to apply if you want to, clear this high level content. It's just nature of the beast. Like,
But
That's hobbies in general, right? Like, for instance, I could tell you this. If your hobby is like Gunner, your hobby is building Gunpla, right?
Mm.
So if it's a hobby that you're into, there's tiers to this hobby of yours. And the
oh
deeper you
yeah,
go
yeah,
into that hobby, the deeper you go into that hobby, well, the more fun you find that hobby is the deeper you go into it. And the deeper you go into it is the more serious you become about it, right?
yeah,
So if
definitely,
you
yeah.
become if you go into Gunpla so deep where you're entering actual contests on how realistic or how detailed you design your robot and in the or the fake environment you make around it, and then me as someone who's just getting into it, um, is like, oh well, I don't need to like getting that serious into it or doing what you're doing is not that serious. It's just a bunch of toys,
Right. It's
right?
just
If
plastic
I do
models,
great,
bro.
right, it's just plastic models or it's just toys or you're gonna feel away because you have now growing a passion for the hobby you're developing. So it's a natural
Well, to
human
add to that
nature to
example, it's
become.
more a better example to use
Mhm.
just the same story you set up was, let's say Gunner, he's more serious into Gunpla. He's doing custom master grade kits with a diorama and like, an environment and all this other stuff, right? Which would take hours, days, weeks to construct, versus somebody who's new and who's doing just like, high grade stuff, no custom, no sanding, no panel lining, no nothing, entering the same contest and having the expectation of, well, surely this is going to make the top eight, and then you're not even considered in the tournament, like, or the contest. They're like, you don't
Good point.
qualify.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
Mm,
why shouldn't I qualify? It's like, well, this
mm,
is for custom builds. Your Gunpla is out of box. Like it's just the Gunpla,
I'm literally out.
right?
Yeah.
And they were like, well, that's
mm.
not fair. It's like, well, that's the rules of the competition. You have to have a
Yeah,
custom.
we're all having
yeah,
fun here, though, right?
So
It's all
just
for
to add a little
fun.
more like
Mhm.
layers to your
Yeah,
story.
that's way better. Right.
but here's the thing,
Mm,
to Gunna's point pertaining to like the devil's advocate portion, where it's like, oh, it's just a game. You know, I don't know if Helldivers 2 has done this, but typically when you go online, what developers have done and incorporated was set prerequisites for what you're searching for. They would have a criteria of, are you just having fun or looking for,
So I'm glad you said that.
strong
I'm glad
players,
you said that.
or
So
like, here's the
so
Lippet
there,
Cap,
there's
that's the
some more
rank, so on and
context that
so
I didn't
forth.
get to go over because I wanted you guys all, spout your initial opinions. So there's context to like
Okay.
why this is even a conversation piece, right? And you guys touched on
Okay.
it as well. So in the article, it links to a Reddit thread, and the original posts, why are people like this? And then he or she posts another thread. This looks like Steam, right? Um,
Hmm.
and this original post on Reddit is reposting something that they saw on Steam, And so the Steam poster, who's the metagamer here, says, headline, we need to set a standard for 8+ missions. That's the starting point. So it's not we need to set the standard for how you play the game across the board. No, when we reach this threshold of difficulty, there needs to be a standard here. That's what he's saying. And I'll just kind of quickly go through his points, and then I'll follow up with some of the comments that are going against this, right? And then we could talk about devil's advocate and all that. So he goes,
Okay.
if they're using anything but the right breaker gun, kick. If they have worthless stratagems that are weak, kick. If they don't have either railgun or nade launcher, kick. Not using a shield, kick. Some would argue autocannon, but the armor is not working. So shield is a must on higher levels. I've seen too many wasted spots with autocannon players. We need to set a standard for high-ranking pug play. Whatever.
Pick up group.
Okay.
Pick up group.
There we go. I learned something new.
Yeah.
You can have your silly builds or weak guns on your own friend's time, but if you are not using these things, you are trolling and should be kicked. That's his opinion, and I don't necessarily disagree. And then some of the comments that are going against it in this Reddit thread that the article mentions, which will be linked in the description. One guy goes, "This is rage bait, nothing else. Trolling for the internet points." Somebody responds with, "This ain't trolling. This is a shitty player using metagaming to make up for their own lack of skill and using people not using metagame as an excuse as to why they always fail. Getting kicked by this douchebag is a favor. Fuck this guy. The ideal fix is weapon balancing," which there is a balance patch. A lot of this meta stuff is probably not meta anymore. So meta is ever changing in anything. There is a power creep, right? And so basically it's a lot of people who don't agree with the statement, who are like, this is a jerk way to play. This isn't fun. This is not why the game was created. Blah blah blah.
Go ahead.
All I'm gonna say now, and I'll let you take over again, is I agree with you guys. If you're playing at a certain point, certain games get to a certain level of difficulty where there are just certain tools that do not function anymore and they're not optimal, right? And for older players, adults who have full-time jobs, a lot of us don't have a lot of time to invest in these hobbies and these games. And so when we get into a game, we want to win. And we want the positive results. Then there are other people who are full-time full-time adults who just want to play the game for fun. They're not trying to, they stress at work, they have kids, they have all these other serious things to worry about. The last thing they want to do is make the game serious. And I understand that. However, there needs to be respect on both sides of the fence, right? And there needs to be acknowledgement that there's two sides to this fence, right? And that there's no overlap here. If you're let's have a good time, that's cool. But if you're getting kicked, that's the right of the host to kick you because you don't meet a certain requirement that they're looking for, right? Just like if you're just not having fun in a certain room, you have the right to leave because these guys are a little too serious. This room is a little too hot for me. I should leave. You have the right to leave. You don't have an obligation to stay. Yeah. So both parties need to respect each other's reasons why they play instead of resorting to like fucking name calling, going, well, you're a loser who lives in your mom's basement, and that's why they take this game so serious. Like it's like, and then the other guy, the metagamer guy, is like, well, you suck, and that's why people like you shouldn't play video games because you shouldn't be allowed.
You'll never clear ultra hard mode. Loser.
Both people need to just chill out, right, and understand that.
That's when gatekeeping.
Yeah, gatekeeping. There's an argument for it, but I don't think it should be gatekeeping hard. Like if you don't. Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is that's how you develop gatekeeping because the hardcore players that don't want to deal with the players who don't want to take it seriously. But then the players who don't want to take it seriously is insulting them at the same time. It's just like too childish.
Right, I think these two parties should just simply not coexist. Like they should coexist but not interact. Like acknowledge that these are fucking sweaties, and then the sweaties will be like, these are fucking losers who can't fucking clear. We don't want to play with these. Like it's okay to segregation isn't necessarily bad. Ranks, weight classes exist for a fucking reason, bro. Like let's let's call it for what it is. But anyway,
Yeah, I agree with
you
that.
guys can
Yeah.
take over from there. I've said enough.
My thing is this, right? Like it don't even have to be like the name calling don't even have to be a part of it. It's just people have to respect each other's goals and what they're looking for. And if you don't unfortunately fit that mold, then unfortunately play with other people. Because one thing's for certain about all games of all different backgrounds, there's a diverse amount of players. You have the people who are super casual, you have the elitists, you have the people that just want to, 100% the objectives. Like there's a diverse group of people within all genres of games. Now, in regards to like the whole meta aspect, it's no different than like you're going to the club. Well, are you wearing shoes? Are you wearing a tie? Are you wearing a dress shirt? Oh, I see you're wearing a hat. Okay, sorry, you can't join the club. You can't come in here. It's no different than the casuals. It's like the music sucks. There's no girls here. I'm leaving. It's no different. Like people need to just respect other people's options. If they're looking for this particular type of build, then you need to honor it. Which is why I said what I said in terms of like the developers putting in these different criterias within the game. What do you want? What are you looking for? In Monster Hunter, they give you specific monsters. They ask you which type of hunter rank you're looking for, like which players, like 3 or above, or like 4-star missions or above. Are you just looking to gather? Are you looking to hunt just random monsters? They give you all these criteria to kind of refine your search as to who you want to play with. And the people who are just being casual, there's a criteria for you, and there's the people who are playing meta, there's a criteria for you. Like it should go, it doesn't have to go hand in hand. What you're looking for will most likely be there if there's enough players playing the game. And that is pretty much it. Like, now I don't know if this guy, because it sounds like he's just spouting, oh, this is concrete. I want every meta gamer to do this, I don't know if that's the right way to go about it. It can come off a bit as like, somewhat toxic to some degree. However, if he's the host and this is what he wants, then you have to honor it. Like it's kind of like respecting people's house. Like if they don't want you going in their refrigerator, then you don't go. Just because someone else is super casual about it doesn't mean that the next person is going to want you to do the shit that you're doing at somebody else's house. So when you respecting someone's house is equivalent to respecting somebody's domain as the host in a game. You got to respect what they're looking for, and that's pretty much it. That is pretty much it. And if you're in transition of becoming a meta player, then and you're looking to get into these things, that's different. But like if you're just playing casual, then you need to respect the meta fence, and if you're just playing meta, then you need to respect the casual fence. That's pretty much it.
That's why I say, that's why I say just understand what you want out of the game, and once you understand what you want out of the game, you have to understand that you can't play with everyone. Just simple, you just can't play with everyone. I'm sorry, but I just don't feel like you should be like,
yeah.
Just stop. Go play something else.
Listen, we used to even be meta as kids. Like if you played like Cops and Robbers or a team-based game, like there was some kid that was in the park, unfortunately, that wasn't getting picked because he did not fit the overall stats of what was needed on the team. Like if you're playing,
I would not pick the kid that's slow. Like
that's what I'm saying.
If your running abilities was hindered by whatever you look like or whatever the situation is for you, and you couldn't keep up, why you want my team?
Yeah, because it's
now
very.
there's a difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna. If I was playing Helldivers 2, I would not insult a person who comes into my room because they are not prepared.
Well, yeah,
for the content. I wouldn't insult them. And even when I was a kid, I wouldn't pick the slowest kid who was the slowest kid in my opinion, but I didn't have a need to say what was on my mind on why I didn't pick him. But
he was fat. Like what What are we pretending?
But subconsciously,
Kong said it.
But it's the
Yeah.
truth, though, brother. Like,
It's the truth, right?
you pick the tall kid when you're playing
Yeah.
basketball. You pick the faster, more nimble kids when you're playing dodgeball. It's been maxing. We've been doing it
Yeah.
ever since we were little.
Yeah.
even
I'm-
even in
I'm-
acting, you pick the right person for the role. You're not gonna like, oh well, this
Mm.
person is missing a certain amount of stats, like that you're gonna pick them or whatever. It's in everything.
In some movies they really do not think about their casting, but we're not gonna get there. That's a different topic.
That's because those are the casual casters. Those are the ones that don't really care about their work and they're not metagaming the Hollywood franchise or whatever. So
They're not min-maxing the effort they're putting into the character they're supposed to portray. But anyhow, the thing is, from what he said and how I look at it, I guess it's my perspective. He's not saying that people shouldn't play the game if you're not going to be serious about it. He's not saying that, if you don't have your equipment or your gear in place, then no one should accept you, because we all have to get there at some point.
But that's not what the guy
We
said.
all have to get there.
In his
Right.
headline, he made it very clear.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
And
like, when you hit this threshold, this is the expectation, right?
Mhm.
Is it elitist to
Mhm.
say that? Sure, I could agree with that, but that's the expectation. Like, listen, I don't consider
Yeah.
myself an elitist player in anything, but if we're playing Monster Hunter, I'm gonna have certain expectations. If we're playing like, Fatalis G rank on the world or something like that, it's like, all right, brother, like, you walking in here with some like low rank shit, like, you're walking around with a hammer and you've got like, I don't know, whatever skill, like some skill that doesn't work for hammer. It's
bow
charge plus
or
2, and it's like, all right, man, like, what are we doing here? Like, you're not helping. You're actively, because the monster, in that case, the monster is going to increase in health because of the player population. So, and you're not going to be pulling the damage that you need to. So now I have to work harder.
So you put in more
right?
weight.
It's like,
you put in more work.
and I'm
on
pretty
it.
sure it's the same for Helldivers and games of the same ilk.
Mhm.
It's like, all right, brother, like, we need you to do something. Like, we need you to be a active, productive member of the team here, right? But I get why other people hate that. It's just like, well, I just want to play the game for fun, right? And that's okay, that's fine. But you can't get upset that you're getting kicked.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be okay with it. It's gonna take you
Yeah.
longer to get a room, probably. Sorry, like that's
Yeah,
it's a consequence or a result of
Yeah.
reality. Like, it sucks. And there's one, I just want to like mention this one comment here, which I think is the wrong response, and then Esoteric, you can take over. This guy responds to this whole thread with, "This is exactly why devs refuse to add PvP. This shit right here. Y'all are making a fucking co-op game competitive. How the fuck did anybody have enough stupidity to pull that off? Holy shit. If you're one of those toxic fucks with this mindset, treating this game this way, please go play League instead. That's the only place where that type of behavior is accepted as the norm. League is by far the most acceptable place to hate your own teammates. Seriously, please uninstall Helldivers and go play that instead." That's not productive.
He's not wrong. No.
He's not wrong
The
about the
time I
League
played
stuff.
League, I'm like, you all fucking
Yeah, but
suck.
sure, that's that
It's
game, but that's
unproductive to
most
the-
games. That's most successful co-op
To
games.
the economy of that game, yeah. It is an unproductive comment to say. It's ignorant.
It's unproductive
It's very
Yeah.
ignorant.
to actively say, no, my way of playing is superior and is preferred. You are turning this game into something it is not, which is not the case, right? It is a co-op game, but it's not an easy co-op game. This shit is, from what I've seen, it's hard as fuck.
I've seen gameplay. Yeah, Shit
pretty
gets wild.
crazy. It gets pretty crazy. So, there are some people who want to maximize their runs. They want to have a successful run. And so I understand why they go, well, no, this is the expectation. That has existed forever, man. Like, that's why we have competitive sports and why there's a minor league and a major league, right? Like, that's why 5-year-old kids don't play with the kids in middle school, and the kids in high school don't play with the kids in middle school, and the high school kids don't play with the college kids, because there's a class system here. And so that's not the case here in this game or in any game. There isn't necessarily a class system, but hierarchies tend to develop themselves. If you just leave people be, hierarchies will just kind of
Because that's
form.
how
That's
people
because
are.
that's in our nature. That's just a part of our
Yeah,
code, right?
exactly.
And so, telling people to actively go fuck themselves and stop playing the game that they're also enjoying playing is not
Hmm.
good for the overall brand, the overall IP, the overall community. It's okay to have subsections of different communities within a community. That tends to happen in human society. So I don't know. I just don't think it's
Yeah.
productive. But anyway, I know Esoteric,
Mm.
you had something
Yeah.
to.
No, I was just gonna say, like, to the article's point, to that guy's point, like, whatever set standard that he has for him when he hosts the room, perfectly fine. Although, him influencing others to, like, say, kick this person if they don't meet these certain expectations, um that's no different than what the last guy is saying, telling him to, like, go fuck yourself, like, you shouldn't be playing Helldivers or whatnot. Because the way he narrated it, or the way he illustrated it, he did make it seem like, I want all of you who are getting to this certain level to pretty much anybody who
Okay.
doesn't have these things need to leave. And
Uh,
if
can
you are the host of the room and then you follow that ideology, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Because people go to YouTube and any other, like, place to seek metas to make their lives easier and whatnot. Completely understandable. But it looks like the way that he kind of set the tone, he was like, listen, to all my metas out there, I need you guys to have these guns, and if these dudes don't have these guns, then fuck them all, kick them.
uh,
I want you guys to do a unanimous kick. Like,
can I push back on that?
sure, go ahead.
I'm going to push back on that. I don't think he was as toxic as the one who is like, um, blah blah blah. Accept me, I suck. No,
Oh, no, he's not as toxic. I'm just
right?
saying that his
No,
his narrative is kind of, like, similar in the
no. I
sense of
don't
what
even
he's
think
saying.
it's similar. I don't
I
even
think
think
so.
it's similar. The reason why I don't think it's similar is because he's saying a standard must be set for those who are putting in effort. Because in the end of the day, you're not going to get the best shield in the game with no effort. You're not going to get the best gun in the game with no effort. You're not going to get the best build in the game with no effort. Your skill isn't going to get better with no effort. It sounds like half of this community wants to be accepted for lack of effort. It's they want to be rewarded for bad habits.
No, I completely understand that. But however, what I'm saying is that standard should be set amongst whoever's the host. And I feel like he's kind of, like, trying to influence all hosts
Yes,
to.
and he should.
I don't
He
know about
should.
that. I don't know
The
about that.
reason why he should is because, think about it, it's the players who are min-maxing. No, wrong. These players who are min-maxing are putting in the effort to make their gameplay more enjoyable for them. People look for guidance naturally,
Hmm.
right? One of
Yeah.
the things that we do, one of our natural habits is to look for guidance. So naturally, they're going to look for, oh, like, how do they deal with this themselves? If one person doesn't step forward and say, hey, look, here's a standard that the meta community is expecting, then how many people are going to separate themselves from being casual to being serious? How many people are going to say, okay, well, I kind of want to play this game. I kind of like this game. I want to get deep into this game. Here's a guideline for me to follow. Now, if they don't have this, kick them. If they don't have that, kick them. If they don't have this, kick them. If they don't have that, kick them. Okay, I get that part.
Yeah.
It sounds arrogant when you're reading the list, but when you're actually in like indulging into the situation, when you're diving in the situation, when you cut that slice of cake and you see how many layers that cake have, you're going to have to understand this is the reason why these criteria are set. Because one of the biggest things, and we make fun of it all the time, is people don't like their time being wasted. And if you don't set criterias, if you don't set a guideline for what is expected when you reach a certain point, then you will constantly get those people who don't have any boundaries. You have to create boundaries for people to respect pretty much your time in the game. You have to create boundaries.
No. I absolutely get that, and I feel it. Okay, so here's my thing, right? Should you have a criteria for metagames? Of course. If you're trying to optimize how long you're if you're trying to optimize the mission and make sure that you're, you know, accomplishing it with an overwhelming amount of success, fine. But I feel like once you tell people what the meta is and you let them know, like, here's what works and here what doesn't work, through the dynamic of playing a game, it's already implied that if you don't have this and you were not meeting that you're going to get kicked. Like, I don't think anybody went around with Final Fantasy 14 saying like, oh, well, if you don't have this, that, and the third, you're getting kicked. No, it was already something that was implied. If you wasn't holding your weight, you were getting out of the team.
Yeah,
but
but
for him to just like overtly,
I think, here's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the meta community is as large as the casual community.
Oh no, it's absolutely not.
Right.
Absolutely not.
The meta community, I think, is a very small percentage. And if you're just a group of fish in a large ocean and you want to swim in circles with each other, then the other fishes should know their place, unless they're willing to become serious in that space. Now, if you're not going to become serious in that space, but you feel like you are entitled to play in that space, then you're wrong, in my opinion. My personal opinion.
No, I get that. I'm not saying that they should be entitled.
Don't try to bleed in to what I'm saying is don't try to force your lack of accountability onto a group of players who's like, yeah, they want the nitty gritty of this game. Don't try to force your lack of accountability, because basically you're saying it's like this. I should be able to get on and play whenever I want to play, and I should be able to play with people whether they are good or not, and I should be able to play the metagame people, and they should accept me into their group and take me on these hard missions. And if we fail, it's just a game. Be happy. That doesn't work like that. It don't. So respect that space, because your casual base is way larger than that meta base. So just respect it.
I get that 100%, and I am completely in agreement with you.
Mm-hmm.
I led with stating that it's okay to be meta, and there's a certain criteria that must be met and whatnot. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, it comes off as a little pretentious the way he was like, oh,
it does.
That's all I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying
it'll come off pretentious. It'll come off pretentious because we're not in his space.
Well,
no,
like,
right.
If we were to play that game, like, it's all text, so like it's going to be received a certain way. It's going to be received how you want to receive it, or how you decide to interpret it, right? I think it was pretty respectful, personally. Like, just saying, if you have this, if you don't have this, kick. If you don't have this, kick. If you don't have that, kick. That sounds fucked up, right? But it's really a checklist. Like, it's like what would be the difference? Was like, these are some of the more recommended builds, and then he just lists it, right? These are the non-recommended builds, and it's everything else. What's the difference? The difference is, while he's being nice about it, he's like sugarcoating it for you. He's giving it to you raw. Listen, if you're rolling in here with anything but the right breaker gun, which whatever the fuck that is, right? Then you're not doing max DPS based off the fucking the sweatiest players who sit here and fucking data mine the game and do runs fucking 24/7 to find out the maximum, the best build for the best situation, for the best matchup, for the this research comes from somewhere, right? And I'm sure this guy is just a guy who just looked it up online and was like, oh, that's the meta? Cool. That's what I'm doing, right? And so he's been just kind of indoctrinated into playing that way. Or maybe not. Maybe he's the guy who has the data to like back up all those claims. But he starts with saying, this is the first sentence, we need to set a standard for A+ missions. I'm assuming A+ missions is pretty high. I don't know, right? Yeah. Then he ends the last three sentences, we need to set a standard for high rank pug play. Then he says, you can have your silly builds. That was a little fucked up. You don't have to call it silly, but I get it. You can have your silly builds or weak guns on your own friend's time, but if you're not using these things, you're trolling, you should be kicked. I don't disagree with that. And I know you guys don't either.
Because that means...
No.
Yeah.
That's what
But
I'm
I
saying.
don't necessarily think
disagree
it
with
sounds
him.
all that pretentious. I kind of get it.
Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Because we already know that us within this panel are able to take whatever criticism that's thrown
Yeah.
at us. The gaming sphere consists of a lot of fragile people.
True.
Basically, my point was essentially like to how Dev handled picking people in the park. You didn't have to imply like, oh, you're short, you shouldn't even be playing. No, it's more like, okay, I'm picking these people, and that's who I'm rolling with. And kind of like what he should have been like, because I think it would have been received much better. Like, oh, okay, here's the builds for 8+ missions, and there's people who are going to indoctrinate that into their play.
I
and whoever
disagree
comes in, they
with
will.
your interpretation
How
of
so?
Wolf's playground example, because
How
so?
so?
Because this is what really happens, right? If we're playing tag, right? You're not picking the fat kids.
Okay.
You're not picking the clumsy kids. You're not picking the kids who are slow, who have like depth perception issues. You're not picking those guys, right? You're just not, right? Straight up, right?
Yeah.
You're also not gonna go, you're fucking blind, you're fat, you're stupid, get out, right? But if this was like a
Depending how young you are.
maybe, but for the most part, we weren't
Before you
that
develop-
blunt, right? At least that was my playground experience.
I wasn't,
However,
no.
if this is like state tag championships, right? And we're developing a team to represent the school, and the coach is like, if you're more than 150 pounds, you gotta leave. If you're wearing glasses, you gotta go, right? You don't qualify. He just sets this straight path
Hard
of like,
line.
if you're this, you're out. If you're this, you're out. If you don't have this, you're out. And let's say you're a fat kid with glasses. You got double jeopardy, double negatives, and your ass is still on that line. That coach is gonna look at you like, I know you hurt me, right? Like, you know what I mean? And that kid, let me just finish. And that kid,
Okay.
the fat kid with the glasses who have bad depth perception, let's say he's clumsy too, right? He's like, no, I want to play on the team. And it's already been said that he's been disqualified because of his unfortunate genetics, right? That sucks, but you can't force yourself into the space if you're not built for it or if you haven't trained for it. And so that's the difference. But continue.
No. I get that. I think we're arguing two different points. I'm all in agreement with what this guy said. All I'm saying is that
I was arguing
it's
that
already
your perception or your interpretation of Wolf's playground scenario was a little
Yeah.
flawed, and I just wanted to clear it up with like some additional layers.
Okay.
That's all.
Here's what I'm saying, right? The reason why I
Okay.
say that, the reason why I say it's not flawed is due to the fact that it's already there's already implications set as to why this person is not being picked. Much like in Helldivers, let's
Yeah,
say
but these rules
if
aren't
you're
set
playing,
in stone. These rules were developed by the community or by the meta community. This isn't in the game.
Mhm.
yeah, but that's typically how
That's
it
not
is.
true.
Okay, like
That's
to
not
Dev's
true
point,
because
How
in
so?
Gunner's experience playing Monster Hunter, I could tell you when we played Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate back in the day, there were certain weapons that were considered high tier, like Charge Blade, Insect Glaive, Longsword, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? He mained gun, and because gun users, light bow gun users, back then would die constantly because their armor was halved. That was the nature of being a gunner back in the day in Monster Hunter. You had half the defense of a Blade Master. That was just the way it was.
Yeah.
You were more susceptible to damage, ergo more susceptible to death and carding. So he would walk
Yeah.
into rooms, even though he's a skilled gun player, and he didn't die like that, right? He would die every now and again, but it wasn't like my man was carting 3 times every mission. That wasn't happening. He would get kicked. He would
It
get
wasn't like someone who downloaded a Fatalist file
we're not
and
gonna talk
still
about that.
carded
We're
on
not
a
gonna
coot
talk
coot.
he would get segregated against simply because, not even for his build, because his builds were pretty optimal, but because of his weapon. He would walk in there with a light bow gun, and it was presumed, this guy's a scrub. He's gonna die 3 times. Get the fuck out. He would get kicked.
I would either get insta kicked,
There's
or I had one guy.
there's nothing in the game
but that-
that states, like, oh, gunners are just weaker. Yeah, it's a natural fact that they have half defense, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad player. But he was still segregated against, and it was annoying to him, but he kind of understood it. But I'll let him kind of talk about the story, and I'll let you respond.
Yeah, like I literally had a guy, and this is 3DS, mind you, not the most intuitive of chats.
True.
So the guy typed on the shitty fucking keyboard that Capcom gave, yeah, with his stylus, and told me to change weapons. And I was like, no. And I got kicked. So, and then when I would research the community, I found out that not just me, but Insect Glaive, because that was the new weapon at the time, a lot of people would, unfortunately, for me and Wolf, like a larger portion of the community were pretty bad with those weapons, and they would die often. Me, because I had half health. Insect Glaives, because they're jumping, and then Rajang feels like shooting a beam. So it was just a fact of life. Like, I got kicked without any I couldn't defend my case. I got kicked, and whatever. I knew how to play the game. So when I was in a party and I didn't have a DPS meter, but I knew for a fact I was doing the most DPS on that team, I was like, yeah, I know I'm fine, but I'm not gonna try to fight with the community. I'm just gonna have to prove myself for the team that doesn't kick me, or start my own rooms. That's what I started doing. I started doing my own room. That way, I'm not going anywhere. If you gotta go, if you see that light bowgun symbol and you have to leave, peace out, man. Peace out. Good luck.
So I'm sorry, but here's my question. This is what I wanted to ask. Like, was it something that was stated online? Like, oh, if you see any bow players, kick them. If they're using Instant Glaive, kick them.
I would see posts. Yeah, I would see posts just like that. No, I would see posts like that. If you see an Insect Glaive user, kick him. You see a light bowgun user,
didn't see
kick
them,
him.
but I could believe they existed, and I know for a fact he dealt with that. So
Okay.
that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
These hierarchies are created by the community. And these rules aren't set in stone in the game. They're set in stone by the community. That's what makes us human.
Listen, I
use that word too much. Sorry.
I am in agreement with everything that he's saying, because this is the criteria that he wants, and this is what he wants to instill within that community. I'm just saying, I just felt as though, like, if he's setting the metagame standard, or if this is a unanimous decision made by the metagamers, then me personally, I guess because I have a brain, I would already be, it would already be implied for me that if I don't meet this criteria and I'm running into people that have these builds and I don't, that I'm getting kicked. That's all I'm saying. Like, you don't have to tell me that I'm going to get kicked. I already know definitively that I'm going to get kicked because of I'm able to read the room pretty much. That's what I'm saying.
It's also paying attention to your growth in the game too. Like, if, for instance, if there are tiers to these missions and you have rank C, rank B, rank A, rank S, rank SS, once you start finding yourself in rank A and you see that you want to keep going, you have to reevaluate what the game means to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, if you're like, okay, I really like rank A missions, I thought they were pretty challenging, I want to see what this looks like, you now have to consider what gear you're wearing, because you need to survive, or you need to deal the damage, or however Helldivers is set up to play. And I think that's what frustrates me with the situation, is that I feel like if I know how people are, or based on how people vent online, they want to have their cake and eat it too. And it just doesn't work that way. And you do have to realize, like, okay, if you just want to play casually, your B rank missions should just stop there. Just stop there.
And then you can play your fun build, your suboptimal build, and other people in the B rank missions won't feel its negative impact because you're still able to clear the mission.
Well, here's the other thing too. In the comments, I didn't read them, but they're there. I mean, and it'll be in the description for whoever wants to go through it. There are people who's like, oh no, I didn't use that stuff, and I made it all the way to whatever rank, like past +8 or whatever. It's not to say that these other tools can't work. It's just that they're statistically not going to work as often as the tools that this guy's probably talking about, right? And so that's the point. And I understand, I get how some people. I used to be that way too, and I still am in certain ways. Me, Gunner, and better example, me and Esoteric play single player games very similarly in that we play them blind usually. Even if there's a bunch of information online, we tend to not optimize builds for like a Souls games. Whereas Gunner and Wolf are the opposite. They cannot not do research.
My ass gonna be on Erdtree in June. Like, yo, what's the community say?
Right? And both of us, both parties can. I can speak for me, and I think I can speak for Esoteric. We respect you guys' way of life. when playing these
Yeah,
kinds of games.
absolutely.
You may not respect ours. That's okay.
Yeah.
But like, I definitely respect it and
I
accept it.
sometimes envy it. I'm not gonna lie. I can't. I wish I could play games like that.
Like my
It's
thing,
not that I
my,
envy it. I just more so am astonished. Like my jaw drops when I see you guys play blind, and it's like,
Yeah.
Fuck.
how do you
because
do that?
my
Watching
perspective is
Esoteric play Lords of the Fallen, I'm like, bruh, I would have looked up what does this item do? What does this ring do? I need to know
no.
exactly what it
See,
does.
I can't do that because okay, I can do it for multiplayer games because I have to pull my weight, otherwise I'm gonna get kicked. Or you know, us being as a collective group of gamers, yes, we like to have fun, but there's also a balance where it's like we don't like to lose. We like to make sure that at least by the end of the night, we took down some shit, especially in Monster Hunter. We could be leaving with a good night, or Kong could be turning red and people are throwing flash bombs and Gravios is falling to the ground and shit like that. Like we've had nights like that, you know. I mean, I've had a night where I came in with my good, decent build, and then I caused a wipe and I flung my controller first time in my life, and I'm like, what the fuck? And you know, at the time, Kong is laughing at me, and I'm livid because it's like, you know, it could have been a potential gold crown for him. I'm still pissed to this day.
I will
mind you.
never know.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, we will never know. But one thing's
Sometimes
for
it's
certain.
best.
Oh, 100%.
Sometimes one thing's for certain.
Mm.
But one thing's for certain, I am livid about that situation. But like, you know, basically what I'm saying is in multiplayer, I can do it because I have to meet the criteria of the expectation of the team that I'm playing with. But in solo games, it's like it's my domain. I'm the host. I have full domain of what happens.
Your
I want to
actions
be able
only
to
affect
be.
you.
Yeah, my actions only affect me. And the most important part of gaming for me is I don't want to ruin the moment. I want a legitimate like reaction to what
Yeah,
the
you
hell
want
is
a
going
genuine
on.
experience. I
And
get that.
yeah, and it's seldom that games offer that nowadays. So especially in the Souls games, I'm able to really invoke certain reactions that I don't normally do because I'll be sitting there pretty stoic, just like, oh, okay, this is what happened. Oh, that's pretty cool. But with the
For
Souls
me,
games, yeah, for the Souls games, it's like, oh shit, you know, it's you know, so that
for me, it's
that's what it is.
directions. It's direction. Like you can do it. You can do your research without spoiling. Like, a, I mean, if I'm looking for like the best weapon, chances are they're gonna say, "Oh, when you reach this boss or when you reach this enemy, farm them or whatever." But I don't need to do research on what the boss does.
Yeah,
I just need to do research on what the boss drops.
But it becomes a rabbit
And
hole because they tell you need this build. Then in order to get this, you must go to the Valley of Defilement or something. It's like, what the fuck is that? And
Oh
then
well,
yeah, I'll do
yeah,
that. Yeah, I'll
you
do
must
that all the
yeah,
time. I'm like, what the
yeah,
fuck is
yeah,
that? I
that
haven't been
part.
there
I mean,
yet.
right,
yeah. And once you
yeah,
go to the
that
Valley of
part.
Defilement,
But
you got to fight Ceaseless Discharge, and then you got to make sure that a certain attack that he does, you must do this in order to acquire this weapon. Because in Dark Souls specifically, you had to cut off tails of certain monsters in order to get certain weapons.
Bro,
So it's like,
I looked up how to get Moonlight Butterfly Greatsword. I was like, all right, we're gonna be here for 3 hours cutting this piece of shit's tail off because I want this fucking sword. All right, we were there
listen,
for a while. I got the sword.
the places that I've gone in Elden Ring have clenched my ass so tight just because I want to farm or to get the best of the best items. But for me, I never really had to research the monster themselves. I just
Right?
had to
Yeah.
research
Yeah.
the
Same.
tactic
Yeah.
to get the item or the weapon or the skill points or whatever. And that's how I've always been in multiplayer games with you guys. I've always been probably the most optimal in any of our multiplayer games because I just don't want to be the one that lags behind. I just don't feel like you guys should be waiting on me with my personal responsibilities. I get online and I hold you guys back. And I've even when I had the free time.
Yeah. It's a bad. I don't like having that feeling. So I'll
Yeah.
just end my little opinion with like a story. I'll try to make it short. So it's recent. It's a recent game. So I was going pretty hard in a recent game called Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. It's like the action RPG of like a gotcha game for those listening that don't really know what it is. That doesn't matter. Point is, it kind of plays in the style of like Final Fantasy, where it has like scripted attacks and DPS phases and stuff like that, and it has DPS checks. And if you fail those DPS checks, much like Final Fantasy, you fail. There is no try again. There is no you take a lot of damage. No. You fail and you get a game over screen. So I was at the end game, post end game. I've beaten the story and all that. I'm trying to fight the hardest fight currently in the game, called Proto Bahamut, for context.
Oh God. Okay.
And he drops your end game weapons. They're called terminus weapons. So in order for me to get my best weapon, I have to do that fight. So me personally, I could have just gone in, right? Once you unlock that difficulty, you can go in. Nothing will stop you. But me, I was like, all right, what character do I want to do it for? I want to do it for this character. Cool. So I stood and I researched and I found out how to optimally play this character.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm not perfect, but it's enough. Then I spent and I grinded for weeks to get the perfect sigils, or they call them sigils, or like they give passive skills and they're kind of like your equipment. I grinded for like 2 weeks to get all of the skills that I needed, and I maxed them out to their max level 15. I took the best weapon I had on me, got it to level 150 so I could get the max HP and attack, and even added like special power-ups to it to get it to plus 99. Like, this is some gacha game shit. Like, Wolf knows this is like the same shit you do in gacha games, except I didn't have to swipe my credit card every time to do it. So that's why I loved it. So I did not even touch that fight until I was as best as I could be to enter that fight. The only thing I was missing was the ultimate weapon, which I can't get until I beat the fight from the boss. So when I went into that fight, my first one, we were doing it. I was like, all right, I think I'm doing it right. I looked up a video how to do the fight beforehand because I'm not fucking around. Like, okay, we're doing it. I think my DPS is good. I could tell that the other members of my team just picked it. They just picked the quest. They were like, "Oh, we're gonna have fun, bro. Pick the quest." So what do? We get to the DPS check. He has half his HP. We lose. We fail, and I just sit there annoyed because it's just like I took all this time to try to just be the best I could, and these
Like
motherfuckers.
no one ever was.
Yeah. And these motherfuckers that just rolled in and were like, "Oh, this we're just having fun, bro. I'm just looking at my anime character do these cool moves, bro. We're just having fun." It's like, it wasn't fun because we wasted 20 minutes and we failed. So that's my story. Like, somebody else will come and like, "Bro, but it was just, bro, it's their first time doing it." It's just like, yeah, but look at the end result. Nobody got anything. That fucking annoyed me. I stopped playing for the day after that because it's just like, come on, man. I'm not asking you to be a fucking top 1%er. I'm just asking you to just like have basic competence if you're gonna enter this fight. But you don't have to. You could beat the story, take the disc out of your PlayStation 5, and call it a day. Like, this was not part of the story. But eventually, I did get the weapon, and I have like a fully maxed out character, and it made me happy, and I moved on. But someone called me an elitist.
Sound like a sweaty metagamer over here.
Yeah, they would, but you know, I just wanted to be optimal. That's it.
And I
That's
get that,
all
and
it
I'm not
boiled
against
down
that
to.
because in Tekken, I had to pick up a new character. I decided to pick up Steve Fox, just because I always liked the character. I just never, played with him. And it turns out that he's been like he's not like unusable, but he's been like nerfed compared to like his past iterations. And I would do a bunch of research on like, what moves make sense, which ones don't make sense, or whatever. And while playing with him before I did the research, he got a new move called Lionheart, which is like, he would do like a Muhammad Ali, shuffle, and then that would lead into different attacks or whatever. But most of the attacks are kind of like, they're not really plus on block or anything like that. Only one of them is like pretty good, which is the one I kept using against you, where he would like do a straight hook because it would break your guard or whatever. So the community, like after playing with him or whatever, I noticed that attack wasn't really doing much for me in rank match. I would go into rank match and I would get like my shit rocked, and like when I would try to use Lionheart, I would just get countered all the time, right? And I would do research and it come to find out it wasn't a great move, and he has better tools that you can use in certain matchups. And I was like, damn, like, if I never did that research, it would have took me so much longer to figure that out, right? Even though I had like hard evidence, like me getting my ass kicked while trying to use that move was like clear, right? But getting that information from the community, from more experienced Steve Fox players, I was like, okay, I get it. Like I could see why they don't like Lionheart, or they don't like this particular move, or why they're a little salty about the frame data on these particular or the properties on these particular moves or whatever. So I get it. Like research is super important, and in a game like that, in fighting games, it's you, right? Like there's no team there. There's no hindering other people. Like if you suck, you are just hindering yourself, right? And that's a shitty feeling if you're trying to like play ranked and you're trying to do well, right? And so for me, I was like, okay, I gotta do some research. I gotta look up some stuff. I gotta like follow some professional players and see what they're doing, and then maybe mimic and get better that way, right? And try to apply it myself. So I get it. Like I'm not against it. It's just, when it comes to single player games, I like the discovery factor. And if I don't look anything up, then I get maximum discovery. So even if I miss out on something, it'll still feel like a memorable experience.
Yeah, and
I can respect that.
And it just, for me, it depends upon the genre, right? Because if it's an action adventure game or anything pertaining to that, where your progression is based upon how you maneuver and things like that, then it's like, okay, whatever. I don't need to research anything. I'm gonna go in blind the first playthrough. But if it's a fighting game, it's like, this is more of like that's where the competitive spirit kicks in. So it's more of, I need to optimize my character. Everything is already pretty much laid out for you, and like, I don't lose any discoverability, so to speak, aside from how the properties work on my character, because all they give you is you do this move into this move into that move, and they don't give you exactly like what the moves are unless you're watching like a YouTube video. And if you play Tekken 8, you've played previous Tekken, so the only thing that might be new to you is like a few moves and the new engine system that they have, which pretty much when it comes to fighting games, the first day you play them, your discoverability is pretty much 0 to 100, unless it's all dependent upon what you do with the character or like other characters you encounter in fighting games. So it's not really of vital importance to me losing that discoverability. But action adventure games and things like that, that's where you kind of, I'm like,
So anyway, we've run out of time. For those listening who made it this far, thank you for your viewership. Hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you enjoyed it, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Comment down below. Let us know what you think about metagaming. Is it good? Is it bad? Are you of the ilk, or are you of the position of, well, games should just be fun, they should never be this sweaty? Are you of the position of, well, if I'm going to play, I'm going to play to win? Let us know. Wherever you stand, we'd love to hear from you. Subscribe for more content. We do podcasts every week. We publish every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. We also do other kinds of videos as well, gameplay videos, unboxing videos, things like that. Check the description for the article that we referenced, as well as the social media links. So we are on pretty much every social media platform: Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. We also have a Discord. Follow Mr. Esoteric on Twitch. His link is down below. He streams 2 to 3 times a week, and he plays a variety of different kinds of games, including Tekken 8, as well as other games. He just got finished with Lords of the Fallen. And he's going to play some other stuff as well throughout the year, so definitely give him a follow so that you're notified when that goes live. With that being said, catch you in the next one.
Bye.